Hello there, everyone. Namaste. My name is Bill Austin. I'm a spiritual healer, teacher, artist, and visionary living in St. Petersburg, Florida, in the United States. This is going to be a YouTube presentation for angelic healing for anxiety, sorrow, grief, depression, and all other downer emotions. So it's going to be a pretty comprehensive healing session today. Before we begin, I'd just like to set some intents. I'd like to begin by invoking the presence of the Holy Spirit Shekinah and the Creator to come forth at this time to bless, purify, sanctify this transmission, and to monitor it and shield and protect it energetically. I'm setting the intent that the energies exchanged between you and me and anyone listening to this recording or impacted by this recording will be love and only love. I'm setting the intent that everything that's transmitted today is aligned with the highest good of all concerned and supports spiritual evolution of each being. Setting the intent that the energies offered today will be offered to the highest level aspect of our monads for full partial acceptance or rejection by that most pristine part of ourselves. And finally, I'd just like to set the intent that nothing from our ego minds or mental bodies or personality self or shadow side will enter into this transmission or impact the energies encoded on this transmission in any way whatsoever. And we're going to do like 8 transmissions today, so I'm going to begin. I'll be announcing the title of each transmission, then saying transmission begins. And when I announce the title, I ask you just to go with it and ask if it's aligned with your highest good to receive it at this time. If you get a yes when I say transmission begins, all you have to do to accept it is just say out loud or to yourself, "Thank you, Creator, I accept." If you get a no, I encourage you to honor that. And when you hear me say transmission begins, just say no, thank you, either aloud or to yourself. All driven by intent. It doesn't take me long to do these transmissions, and I have a 10-minute limit on YouTube, so I always am going pretty fast through it. If you need more time to accept the transmission, just put this video recording on pause or stop and take it off pause or stop when you're ready to continue forward. That will not affect the transmission in any way whatsoever. Okay, the first transmission is going to be angelic healing of past, parallel, future lives, genetic archive, the archives through the parallel future and past lives, the genetic archives, cellular memory, energies, patterns, and programs for anxiety, sorrow, grief, depression, and all other downer emotions, less than love emotions, negative emotion programming. Transmission begins. Transmission ends. When I shake my head like that, it just means transmission's been encoded. The next transmission is going to be genetic healing profiles for anxiety, sorrow, grief, depression, despair, and all other downer, less than love emotions, negative emotional programming. Genetic healing. Transmission begins. Transmission ends. The third transmission is going to be brain chemistry healing profiles for anxiety, sorrow, grief, depression, despair, negative emotional programming, fear, that type of thing. Transmission begins. Transmission ends. The next transmission is going to be for personality, self, and subpersonality and psychological archetype healing profiles around anxiety, sorrow, grief, depression, despair, other downer emotions, fear-based emotions, negative emotional programming. Transmission begins. Transmission ends. I'm getting that a lot of the drugs that people take for anxiety, antidepressants, sadness, all this type of stuff, some of them seem like they have side effects. So this is going to be a transmission to clear any multiple drug interaction issues or side effects of drugs that are commonly prescribed for mental illness or psychological things. If you've never had that type of thing, you won't receive anything. But A lot of the drugs have residual energies and weird energies associated with them, and it builds up in the body. So we're going to do a detoxification and purge of toxins and weird energies from drugs. And this includes things like over-the-counter stuff, like I take Benadryl at night to sleep. So it's going to clear out any residuals from that type of stuff. Transmission begins. Transmission ends. The next transmission is angelic healing profiles for self-destructive thoughts, feelings, attitudes, memories around anxiety, sorrow, grief, depression, despair, all other downer emotions, fear-based emotions, negative emotion programming, negative mental attitude. Transmission begins. Transmission ends. I got when I was doing that transmission that things like pessimism is also being healed out and cleared as well. Okay, the next one's going to be angelic healing and support profiles for fear-based and oriented thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and memories, and especially those supporting anxiety, sorrow, grief, depression, despair, other downer emotions, negative mental attitude, pessimism, negative thinking, etc. Transmission begins. Transmission ends. The seventh transmission is angelic healing and support for going after the origins, causes, sources, foundations, roots, triggers, healing profiles for anxiety, sorrow, grief, depression, despair, hopelessness, pessimism, negative mental attitude, negative thinking, and all other downer emotions. Transmission begins. Transmission ends. The eighth transmission is angelic healing profiles for anxiety, sorrow, grief, depression, despair, hopelessness, pessimism, negative thinking, negative mental attitude, negative emotions, all other downer emotions, less than love emotions. Transmission begins. Transmission ends. The angels would like to do an angelic love and healing wash around anxiety, sorrow, grief, depression, fear, pessimism, negative mental attitudes, negative thinking, negative attitude, and all other downer emotions. Transmission begins. Transmission ends. I'd just like to conclude with some energies from the Creator to help us to integrate in the most perfect possible way and manner with ease and grace. Transmission begins. Transmission ends. That concludes our presentation, and we'll move on to the next one. Namaste.